Johnny Ryder's world gradually phased in from darkness to consciousness. His head throbbed with an insistent pain, echoing like the distant beat of a tribal drum. He tried to move, but his limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. Panic briefly gripped him until he realized he was bound to a wooden chair in a dimly lit room. The tangy scent of salted sea air wafted through an open window, and the soft rocking of the boat beneath him confirmed he was on water. He squinted in the dim light, his eyes adjusting to his surroundings. The room was a cramped cabin on what seemed to be a small wooden boat, and the gentle swaying told him they were still afloat. Flickering candlelight painted dancing shadows on the cabin's rough-hewn walls. As memory seeped back, Johnny recalled the events leading up to this unsettling situation. He had been hot on the trail of a notorious jewel thief, one known for her cunning and audacity. It had led him to a clandestine meeting on the San Francisco docks, a shadowy exchange of words and glances, and then nothing. The goons who had ambushed him must have given him quite a wallop. But where were they now? And why was he tied up on this boat in the middle of nowhere? Johnny's fingers flexed against the ropes that bound him. They were tight, but not impossible to work free given enough time and patience. Two qualities he had in abundance. His fedora, which had miraculously stayed on during the ordeal, rested atop a wooden crate a few feet away. It would have to wait. Right now, he needed to find a way out of this predicament, assess the situation, and hopefully get back to solving the case that had brought him to these treacherous waters in the first place. With a determined glint in his eye, Johnny Ryder began to methodically work at the knots that held him captive, ready to face whatever lay beyond the cabin door. With patience and precision, Johnny Ryder managed to work himself free from the ropes. His nimble fingers moved with a deftness honed over years of escaping tight spots. The bonds fell away, and he rose silently from the chair, his footsteps muffled by the worn wooden floor. He crept toward the cabin door, one hand resting on the doorknob. Peering through the narrow opening, he saw the two goons on the adjacent boat, each holding a can of gasoline. Their hushed conversation reached his ears. "We need to get rid of him for good," one of the goons muttered, his voice dripping with menace. "Yeah," the other one agreed, a sinister grin playing across his lips. "Once this boat's in flames, he'll be nothing but ashes." Johnny's heart quickened as he realized the severity of his predicament. These were no ordinary thugs. They meant business. The shadows of the night masked his movements as he slipped out of the cabin, barefoot to avoid any creaking floorboards. His fedora perched low on his brow, Johnny moved stealthily toward the stack of crates on the boat's deck. He needed a weapon, anything he could use to level the playing field. His fingers closed around a rusted pipe, a makeshift club that would have to do. The salty sea breeze ruffled his trench coat as he approached the goons. With each step he slipped further into the darkness, becoming a shadow among shadows. His determination and streetwise instincts fueled his actions as he readied himself to confront the men who intended to send him to a watery grave. In a city where danger lurked around every corner, Johnny Ryder was no stranger to perilous situations. But this maritime showdown was unlike anything he had faced before, and it would take every ounce of his wits, cunning, and sheer determination to emerge victorious against these ruthless adversaries. With the rusted pipe in hand, Johnny Ryder seized the element of surprise and struck swiftly. He lunged from the shadows, delivering two precise blows to the backs of the goons' heads. They crumpled to the deck like sacks of potatoes, unconscious. Johnny wasted no time. He dashed to the boat's controls, his hands working expertly to start the engine. The boat roared to life, the powerful motor propelling it away from the ill-fated vessel with the goons and their sinister intentions. The night seemed to close in around him as he navigated the choppy waters back toward the lights of the city. His instincts and knowledge of the bay served him well as he expertly maneuvered through the waves. The salt spray stung his face, a reminder that danger was never far behind. As the skyline of San Francisco drew nearer, Johnny breathed a sigh of relief. He had escaped the clutches of the unknown assailants for now, but the questions remained. Why had they targeted him? Who was behind this plot? With the city's lights twinkling in the distance, Johnny Ryder guided the boat to the nearest dock, where he slipped ashore and vanished into the labyrinthine streets of San Francisco. Minutes later, he pushed open the door to his office, finding Daisy and Billy waiting, their faces etched with concern. Daisy rushed forward. "Johnny, we were so worried. What happened out there?" Johnny quickly recounted the events on the wooden boat, leaving out no detail. "I don't know who those goons were, or why they wanted to get rid of me, but we need to find out. And fast." Billy scratched his head, his usual goofy expression replaced by one of determination. "I've heard whispers on the streets, Johnny. Some folks have been saying there's a new player in town, a shadowy figure with deep pockets and dangerous connections. Could be this is just the tip of the iceberg." Johnny nodded. "We can't afford to underestimate our adversaries. Daisy, start digging for any leads on this shadowy figure, and Billy, see what else you can find on the streets. We're diving head first into this mystery, and we're not coming up for air until we've got answers." The trio knew they were treading in treacherous waters, but that was nothing new for Johnny Ryder and his trusted companions. In the heart of 1960s San Francisco, where danger lurked in the shadows, they were about to uncover a web of intrigue that would test their skills, courage, and camaraderie like never before. Johnny Ryder, still feeling the lingering chill of his close call on the wooden boat, couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. He took another sip of his coffee, the bitter taste waking him up to the gravity of the situation. Daisy, her fingers flying across the typewriter, looked up from her notes. "Rocky's a powerful figure, Johnny. Word is, he's been consolidating control over the criminal underworld, making bold moves to expand his empire. If he's the one behind this, we're stepping into a hornet's nest." Billy, leaning against the doorframe, chimed in. "I've got the word out, Johnny. No one's going to mistake you for a fan of boat rides or goons with gas cans." Johnny nodded in appreciation. "Good. We need to send a message that we're not to be messed with. But we've got to be smart about this. Gather as much information as we can without drawing too much attention." Daisy's fingers continued to dance on the typewriter keys. "I'll dig into Rocky's background, see if there are any chinks in his armor. If we can find a weakness, we might have an edgy." Johnny stood up, his fedora casting a shadow over his determined face. "Right, Daisy. And Billy, keep your ear to the ground. Listen for any whispers or rumors that might lead us to Rocky's next move." As the trio went about their tasks, they knew they were up against a formidable adversary. Rocky was no ordinary gangster. He was a rising force in the criminal underworld, and he'd already shown that he was willing to eliminate anyone who crossed his path. Hours turned into days as Johnny, Daisy, and Billy pieced together the puzzle of Rocky's operations. They uncovered a web of illegal enterprises, from smuggling to racketeering, all connected to their elusive target. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the neon lights of the city flickered to life, Johnny gathered his team for a strategy session. "We've learned a lot, but we're still missing a crucial piece of the puzzle: Rocky's next move. We need to stay one step ahead of him." Daisy, her research notes spread out before her, said, "Johnny, I've heard rumblings about a big meeting happening at Rocky's club tomorrow night. All the big players in town will be there." Billy added, "Yeah, Johnny, and word is, he's got something major planned. It could be our chance to catch him in the act." Johnny's eyes gleamed with determination. "Then that's where we'll be. Tomorrow night we infiltrate Rocky's meeting, gather evidence, and bring him down. But remember, we're going up against the top dog in the city, so keep your wits about you." As the night deepened and the city's pulse quickened, Johnny Ryder and his team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. In the heart of 1960s San Francisco, where power and corruption tangled like the streets themselves, they were about to confront the city's new boss and expose the darkness that lay hidden in the shadows. Johnny watched through his binoculars as the night deepened and the meeting on the secluded dock unfolded. He remained hidden, a silhouette in the shadows, his fedora pulled low over his eyes. The salty tang of the bay lingered in the air as he observed the gathering of powerful figures. Billy, disguised as a beggar, was close enough to the meeting to eavesdrop on the conversations. His dopey demeanor made him the perfect undercover agent, and he listened intently, his ears perked for any valuable information. The big players arrived one by one, their faces etched with the ruthlessness of their trade. The bay breeze carried their hushed conversations to Johnny's ears, a symphony of secrets and conspiracies. Finally, Rocky made his entrance and Johnny's grip tightened on his binoculars. The man exuded an air of authority, his presence commanding the attention of everyone present. Beside him, one of his goons held a shiny briefcase, its handcuffed handle gleaming under the dim dockside light. Johnny's instincts told him that the contents of that briefcase held the key to unraveling Rocky's empire. He knew that they needed concrete evidence to bring him down, something that would stand up in court and dismantle his criminal empire once and for all. As the meeting progressed, Johnny's mind raced. He needed a plan to get closer to that briefcase, to snatch it away from the clutches of Rocky and his goon. He glanced around, assessing the dock for potential distractions or allies. Billy, still in his beggar disguise, was doing his best to blend in, but Johnny knew that he might need backup. He reached for the communicator in his pocket and whispered into it, "Billy, keep your eyes peeled. We're going to need to act fast." Billy's voice crackled back, "Got it, Johnny. I'm ready." The night air grew tense as Johnny Ryder, the city's unyielding detective, prepared to make his move. The shadows deepened around him, and the fate of San Francisco's criminal underbelly hung in the balance. Johnny's heart quickened as he listened to Billy's update on the contents of the shiny briefcase, money and lots of it. The allure of riches could be the key to Rocky's downfall, but Johnny knew he needed more than just the promise of wealth to bring down the crime boss. He had to uncover the evidence, the connections, the strings that Rocky was pulling. Just as Johnny was about to make his move, another car pulled up to the secluded dock. It was a sleek black limousine, the kind that only the city's wealthiest magnates could afford. Johnny squinted through the darkness, his curiosity piqued. Daisy, Johnny's ever-resourceful secretary, appeared behind him, giving him a start. He hadn't noticed her approach, but her instincts for being in the right place at the right time were uncanny. "Hey, Johnny," she said, her voice a low murmur. "It looks like Rocky's making a deal that could bring him millions. He's blackmailing a certain construction company." Johnny nodded in acknowledgement. This was the break they had been waiting for, a chance to expose Rocky's criminal activities to the world. But they needed to be careful, and Johnny knew they couldn't rush in blindly. "We have to play this smart," Johnny replied in hushed tones. "We need evidence, not just rumors. Daisy, see if you can find out more about that construction company and why Rocky's got his claws in them. Billy, keep an eye on that briefcase. If it changes hands, we need to know where it's going." Daisy and Billy nodded, each understanding their roles in this high-stakes game. The night was growing darker, and the tension on the dock was palpable. Johnny couldn't help but feel that they were on the brink of something big, something that could bring down the empire of the notorious Rocky. As Johnny watched the dock from the shadows, he knew that the next move would be critical. Rocky's ambitions might be vast, but so was Johnny's determination to see justice served. The night was far from over, and the detective was ready to uncover the secrets that lay beneath the surface of San Francisco's criminal underworld. Johnny Ryder, concealed in the shadows, strained his ears to catch every word that Billy Bubbles relayed to him. The situation was evolving rapidly. Rocky had just received the money, and the construction company's representative had sealed the deal with a handshake. The tension hung thick in the air. But just as Johnny processed this development, Billy's voice came through again. "Johnny, there are men sneaking up from the water, heading toward the warehouse where everyone's gathered." Johnny knew that they were running out of time. If they didn't act swiftly, this volatile situation could explode into violence. Without hesitation, Rocky made his move, deciding to advance on the deal. As he stepped into the dimly lit warehouse, Johnny emerged from the shadows, his trench coat billowing and his fedora casting a shadow over his steely gaze. "This is the end, Rocky," Johnny declared, his voice carrying an air of unwavering determination. "You won't get me on a boat again, and you won't escape justice this time." Rocky, surrounded by his henchmen and the potential buyer, turned to face Johnny, his face a mask of surprise and anger. He was cornered, and he knew it. The tension in the room reached its breaking point as the seconds ticked away. Johnny Ryder, the relentless detective, had Rocky right where he wanted him. The outcome of this standoff would determine the fate of San Francisco's criminal underworld, and Johnny was ready to make his move, whatever it took to bring Rocky down once and for all. Johnny Ryder's instincts were sharp as a razor blade. He knew that Daisy had informed the sergeant and their backup would arrive soon. But there was more to this situation than met the eye. Johnny had a hunch that the men approaching from the water were not just random thugs. He suspected they were connected to the construction company somehow. As Rocky made his final defiant statement, chaos erupted in the dimly lit warehouse. Men from the construction company clashed with Rocky's henchmen, and the situation escalated into an all-out brawl. Fists flew, chairs shattered, and the deafening sound of gunfire filled the air. Johnny seized the opportunity, shouting, "Rocky, it looks like your luck just ran out." With a sudden turn, Rocky caught a bullet in the gut, and he crumpled to the floor, his face contorted in pain and surprise. The end of the line had finally caught up with him. The warehouse became a battleground of shadows and secrets, a fitting backdrop for a showdown in the noir underworld. Johnny Ryder was at the center of it all, his determination unyielding as he faced off against the forces of crime that had plagued his city for far too long. Rocky lay sprawled on the cold warehouse floor, his empire of crime now in ruins. His henchmen hesitated, frozen in the chaos that had suddenly been extinguished. The timely arrival of the sergeant and the entire police force had cast a chilling pall over the scene. Johnny, ever the epitome of cool under pressure, addressed the sergeant, saying, "Just in time to clean this mess up, Sarge. You'll find a big briefcase of dirty money over there, and keep an eye out for those red bills." With that, Johnny strode out of the warehouse, leaving behind the remnants of a criminal empire that had once thrived in the shadows of the city. As he disappeared into the night, he couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Yep, no more boats for me, Rocky." The city of San Francisco would rest a little easier tonight, knowing that Johnny Ryder had once again triumphed over the forces of corruption and darkness. Back at the office, Johnny, Billy and Daisy sat around Johnny's desk, nursing cups of coffee and dissecting the night's events. Johnny leaned back in his chair, his fedora tipped slightly forward, and said in his trademark gritty tone, "Well, folks, we sure waltzed through the lion's den tonight. Rocky won't be sailing any boats anytime soon." Billy chimed in, his voice tinged with a hint of dopey charm. "Yeah, Johnny, those goons never knew what hit 'em. We're like a well-oiled machine." Daisy, always the voice of reason, added, "But we can't forget, we've got the sergeant in our corner. That tip-off saved our hides." As they talked late into the night, swapping stories and sharing laughs, they were a team bound by more than just business. They were a family of sorts, united by their adventures and their unwavering commitment to justice. Finally, as the first rays of dawn painted the San Francisco skyline with hues of orange and pink, the three of them rose from their seats. They walked over to the window and looked out at the awakening city. Johnny Ryder, the hard-boiled detective with a heart of gold, turned to his trusted companions and said, "Well, folks, it looks like another day in paradise. Let's see where the streets of San Francisco take us next." With that, they headed out the door, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the city they called home, united in their mission to make it a safer place for all.